What's that?
Music? You asked for music.
No, I asked you to give me some normal music. I wasn't expecting a bunch of cryptic noise in here. You could fall in love with the zombie to that.
Let's get this straight, mate. You want some normal music? You go to your local supermarket and dig through your 99 bargain bin. You want some happy music? You go to an amusement park. It's that simple.
I thought this was a music shop.
Well, it's a metal music shop.
Whatever it is, could you get your man to turn it down?
You can ask him if you like, but if I was you, I would leave him well alone.
Excuse me, could you turn that noise down for me?
Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Daniel, and I have a huge pleasure of welcoming you to this very first episode of Tonecrank. And the album we're going to cover today for this review is Tales of the Macabre by the long-lost group of British death disciples Monolith. Now, there are tons and tons of groups of the same name around the world playing in different genres and going through different life cycles, but the one Monolith we're going to dissect today is a now defunct death doom metal band from the United Kingdom. There isn't much information about where the band came from, but if you look up the Metal Archive's website, it says that the band was based in East Midlands, somewhere around Yorkshire and Derbyshire areas, but no exact location was specified. A different source cites the band as being the locals of Doncaster, but this information was never confirmed by anyone involved in the band at the time. Before its inception in the early 90s, the band was a short-lived act known as Catalepsy. Having independently released a demo called Faces of Death on a cassette in 1991, Catalepsy then moved on with a new vocalist and eventually changed their name to Monolith, which resulted in a 1992 two-track single release called Sleep with the Dead. The single was issued through the once famed Cacophonous Records, and only 1,000 7-inch marble grey color vinyl copies were made. So if you're a collector of the kinds of records I just mentioned, good luck hunting them down. It's a tough racket, man! Shortly, the band finally settled down in the studio to record their first, and apparently the last, full-length album, that was eventually called Tales of the Macabre. Although the album was fully recorded, mixed and mastered, I guess, at the Blank Tape Studios in Sheffield, where all their previous records were forged, there was only a limited amount of 12-inch test pressing vinyls issued through the now defunct Vinyl Solution label, and it unfortunately never reached the final pressing stage. Nowadays, the copies of this test press are virtually impossible to find even amongst the most die-hard collectors, so checking out the music of Monolith on YouTube is pretty much the easiest way to get hold of their stuff. And you can listen to this album by clicking on the link in the description box below. Enjoy it, it shreds! Sadly enough, the band never made it beyond the point of recording a long play and eventually disbanded. Nowadays, perhaps the band might only be remembered and I guess discovered through the mighty Nick Barker's connection with the band. In fact, he battered the skins and crashed the cymbals for Monolith before leaving the band and going on to join a zillion other metal bands, both in studio and live. And I guess I don't have to tell you what bands he was in, right? You must know them very well, and if you don't, shame on you. I mean, Nick Barker's resume speaks volumes. A pretty impressive track record, Nick. I presume there was some sort of cover art for this album, and perhaps it looked like this. But again, this information was never officially confirmed. It's merely what my research suggests. But the one thing I know for sure is that the names of the band members got completely messed up on the promo photo. In fact, Nick Barker was the only person whose name was correct. And all the other guys were a complete hit and miss. I mean, none of the names matched their true owners.
That's slightly that pissed you off, mate.
Well, at least thanks for not screwing up the who plays what part. I really appreciate that. Maybe whoever was filling out the band info thought to himself, well, these lads are gonna quit their music careers in a couple of months, so who would care about their true identities anyway? Why bother giving them the right names? Oh wait, this guy in the middle, this big guy, he's gonna go far. I'll let the world know his real name. And the others, you guys can chill. And for those of you who wanna know the real names on this one, listen carefully. From left to right, Nick Matthews, vocals, Colin Box, guitars, Nick Barker, drums, obviously, Carl Brown, bass, and Mark Madison, guitars. In fact, as Carl Brown himself said under one of the Monolith live videos on YouTube, it took about 6 shots to make this photo. The fellas just couldn't stop laughing for some reason. I don't know, maybe they somehow sensed that their names would be messed up later on, but had they known their career was about to be ended as fast as it began, there would have been one shot. So what is it that Monolith tried to demonstrate us with their only album over their brief stint in the metal world? Unlike their closest counterparts and fellow countrymen represented by Bolt Thrower, Napalm Death, Benediction, and even My Dying Bride, and by the way, Gorefest and Entombed comparisons are also in place, who all by then already had at least 2 albums under their belts and were pretty well known in the scene. Monolith were obviously a new band and they had a lot to prove. And if you can imagine all these bands could have a baby, then you might have a taste of what Monolith were all about. So what we have here are 8 tracks of that genuine, raw-sounding, old-school death doom metal soaked in gloominess and grimness. For early 90s, this album was definitely a good banger and it sounded pretty relevant. So if you are a seasoned metalhead who's been into death metal for quite a while now, you'd find that by today's standards, Monolith music sounds pretty simple and it's pretty easy to absorb. It's not overly brutal, not super technical, but it can be taken lightly and it doesn't sound forced. And I personally can appreciate it for 2 things. 1. Absolutely ingenious blending of various extreme styles of metal into one hell of a monster. And 2. This primal cold damp sound of bass operating to the max, pretty much reminiscent of Entombed, but with a sharper edge to it. Now this album is very diverse. Almost in every song you can witness an unexpected turn of events with altering overall vibes, changing guitar patterns, and various drum tempos. Over the course of the whole album, you are being taken on a roller coaster ride where you get to experience every undertone of black on various extremes of your journey. A good example would be a song called Sleep with the Dead, the most diverse track on the record, where it all starts pretty steadily, you're sitting there chilling, and then boom, all of a sudden you're being taken to really high levels of intensity with gruesome guitar work and interchanging drum beats, from groovy patterns and skanky beats to blast beats and mid-tempo battery, before plunging into the world of sluggish doom metal with semi-melodic solos in it, only then to be catapulted back into the atmosphere of nasty death metal full-on. And this eerie intro speech from Dario Argento's 1982 giallo film called Tenebra gives this track an extra element of dreariness. Devoured from Within, a track split into 2 parts, would be another great example of sheer diversity of styles. The first part sounds so mournful, so dismal with all those haunting keyboards and depressive atmosphere that it could well give My Dying Bride and Cradle Filth a run for their money. Well, the second part is an obvious Napalm Death and Asphyx worship. And just listen to this monumental drum breakdown for the intro of the second part. It seems like Nick Barker might have borrowed it from Suffer the Children, but nonetheless, it sounds so epic. Hands down, one of the most iconic moments in the extreme metal history. But while there is a prevalence of tracks with a wide range of stylistic changes, there's still a song fully dedicated to a single style, Misery, where it's all pretty much doom metal all the way through. The song is pretty much inspired by My Dying Bride of the early 90s, but with no piano, no violins, and no clean vocals, of course. And that eerie keyboard section in the middle, oof, is just bound to give you goosebumps. And in some sense, it even reminds me of Nile's Sarcophagus, but without Egyptian melodies. And of course, on the album there's a clear nod to Entombed's Left Hand Path that you can hear on the song's Morbid Curiosity, that middle part where the death metal attack stops and flows into the dark realm of doom metal, and on Catalogue of Carnage with the da 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 kinda intro. The leads on the album are mostly inspired by Entombed as well, and they range from somber melodic passages like in the songs Sleep with the Dead, Locked in Horror, and Undead Burial, where you can actually feel this ethereal, unearthly vibe going through your body, to fast, aggressive leads like in Morbid Curiosity, Catalogue of Carnage, and Maceration, where you can hear the use of tremolo arm. The vocals to me sound like a cross between young Chris Decor of Gorefest and Barney Greenway from Napalm Death, and the vocal line is pretty much straight throughout the whole album with rare screams on top of it, like those tiny bits on Maceration, Devour from Within, and Morbid Curiosity. Unfortunately, there are no lyrics anywhere available whatsoever, and you can't really tell what these guys tried conveying in their messages, but looking at the song titles, you can pretty easily tell that the lyrics are revolving around the topics of death, horror, and netherworld. All in all, this is a well-rounded masterpiece of the early 90s, and listen, the world is a sadder place without a physical copy of this album. So whoever owns the rights to this treasure, do us a favor, please, come up with a reissue. Hey, Mr. Barker, maybe you could help? And regarding the visual representation of the band, well, there were no official videos for the songs, but I've seen a handful of live videos on YouTube. Go and check out the YouTube channel called Old School Metal Vids. The link in the description below. There you can find all sorts of rare, fan-filled metal concerts, both from the past and present. So there are 3 Monolith shows filmed in 1992 in Preston, Hull and Bradford in the famed Rio Club. And guess what? You can even find the Catalepsy live sets filmed in 1991 and 1992 in Liverpool, Bury and London at the Marquee Club. Wow! I've watched a couple of those videos and what can I say, man? These guys could really pull their live sets. What a great live band that was! What the hell happened there? To me, Monolith was one of the most unique bands from the UK that could offhandedly combine fast speeds with really slow, chunky, ponderous riffs in their songs. They had every chance to establish themselves in the British metal's Premier League with their unique blend of death and doom metal, but they somehow lost their momentum and never progressed as a band. The only band that pretty much resembles Monolith in every aspect that I can think of right now is the London-based Decomposed, who actually share the similar short-lived career. I mean, it almost seems like these 2 bands could release an album and right away conclude their careers by going on the farewell tour before even going on their first one. But well, we have what we have, so let's enjoy those arcane gems while they shine for those few of us who discovered them. And if you ever come across any Monolith record whatsoever in your life, my advice would be the follows. Buy it, and if you don't buy it, nick one, especially considering there are 2 nicks in the band. So I'll wrap up this review by giving this album 7 out of 10 on my tone knob, and I hope you guys will check out these fellas and give this album a good spin. And if you have already listened to this album, please tell me what you think about it in the comments below. If you like this video, then please give it a good like, hit the subscribe button and click on the bell to get notifications about my new videos whenever they come out on my channel. Thanks for watching, and until then, ta-ta!